What's up, War Room? Welcome back. Joe Caparoso joined by Connor Rogers, fresh off recording a nice long podcast with a reminder at the top. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're only seeing half the episodes, the full episodes are on patreon.com/badlandstoj. And if you're watching this on Patreon or you're watching a clip on Instagram or X or TikTok, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube as well, which is at badlandstoj. The video content everywhere, CR. How we feeling before we answer all these questions going into Jets Pats, which is as we release this tomorrow. We got a game tomorrow.
I know, it's crazy. I'm excited because now I know the fan base is watching all the college quarterbacks. They're interested in what's left of this team. There's a lot going on. Hopefully, it seems like 2 wins have led to cooler heads, though. There's a little bit of a nice calm amongst Jets land right now.
2 wins in the bye week mixed in, where it's been almost like a month since they've lost, is nice and needed for us in this fan base. All right, JP Waxer. The Membu dance was such a nice touch, but I was most impressed with Breece sliding in bounds repeatedly to keep the clock going. He was like a kid playing in the rain. We don't usually have smart, keenly aware players. Isn't this refreshing? We got a lot of questions kind of along the lines of like the Jets played really smart and the Browns played really dumb. And what I was thinking watching that like fun clip at the end with Membu and Tittman and everyone dancing, it was like, this is why winning games is not a bad thing. When you have young players who are like busting their ass and like want to win football games, who are going to be massively critical going forward, like Armand Membu and Joe Tittman. And yes, it was like Breece, that game, I know statistically Breece has had better games in his career. That was the most impressed I've been with one of his games, maybe ever, but certainly since 2022, because he ran tough, he ran physical, he made something out of nothing. He ran hard and like smart late in the game by staying in bounds, and he made an impact as a pass catcher. And to have that game where everyone was like, oh man, there's no one more unhappy in football than Breece Hall because he didn't get traded. And he played like a workhorse. And it's almost like Glenn has been like breaking him down and building him back up to be like, you're not this like finesse home run back. It's actually funny because Saleh went after him publicly in a press conference and it didn't work, right? He was like, oh, Breece has got to like stick his nose in there and not try to be a home run back. And
dirty runs.
Yeah, that. And, this approach, at least for this game and the Bengals game to an extent, Breece putting his shoulder down and getting first downs on 3rd and short and taking 7 carries in a row, and the Jets playing smart was incredibly encouraging to see. So I think more broadly, what have you been impressed with his trajectory and also the coaching staff trajectory and handling some of these players?
Breece looks healthy, and I've only had one real sports-related surgery in my life, and a significant one. And not to ever compare myself to a professional athlete, but this is like all you could do when you've had one sports-related surgery. The biggest thing is not the road to recovery and the battle of time and rehab and all that stuff. It's confidence. It is absolutely feeling like the person you were before that ever happened. And I think with Breece, since his significant, obviously knee tear, we saw moments of it since then, but we didn't see stretches of it where it looked like he's not ever thinking about it, and naturally it's back. And it feels like the last couple of weeks, that's not even a blip on the radar for Breece. Like his lower half is back to the great Breece Hall we know and love. And with that not being on his mind, his mental is so clear that he's now understanding the assignment on a variety of different plays. Oh, it's a north-south run and I get hit at the line of scrimmage. Well, time to lower my pads and drive the legs for 3. Okay, it's a screen, foot in the ground, 100 miles an hour down the field, timing up my blocks. All right, it's an outside run. Let's use my vision here and be a little patient and then cut when I need to cut. And understand when to make a guy miss versus when to run through somebody's face. Just like everything is just kind of working for him again. And I loved Breece at Iowa State because he had this natural feel and he can run because he was 220 pounds with blazing wheels. He can run any way he wanted. He had the outside zone burst and speed. He had the gap scheme and the downhill running power and the leg drive, and he has great hands. And it just feels like with that confidence and all of the physical limitations behind him right now and the team playing well because he has better personnel around him blocking, he's just doing way, way less thinking, and he's emotionally invested into the game, which he's always been that kind of player, whether it's wins or losses. And I think you never want to see a player get hurt, but their belief in Braylon Allen was just like, I don't understand where it came. There wasn't a moment with Braylon Allen where they were like, oh, we got it. This is the guy. Like, we got to get it. Just kind of happened all of a sudden. And it happened in areas of the game where it was a detriment to the team. And unfortunately, Braylon Allen got hurt, but it's forced them to get less cute with Breece. And you're looking around like, man, if we did this against Miami, and we did this a couple different times, maybe we'd be in a different situation. So, yeah, this is the real Breece Hall, and this is why I've been so adamant that Breece Hall needs to be a part of this team for the 2 years following this. It feels like there is a pathway to an extension, and even if there's not, slap the transition tag on him and move it forward.
From M. Bodine, Will made the note that the Jets would be smart to extend Tippmann if keeping him at guard is the plan. Should they be looking to keep Myers another year and or draft a center in rounds 3 to 4? Do we know what this center class looks like? I mean, Connor, you're probably one of the few sickos alive who does know what this center class looks like in round 3 and round 4 in early November. I will say it's a no-brainer to me to keep Tippmann at guard with how he's played this year, which, I think we all go like, why would you mess with a good young center, and an injury forces their hand? But, him and Membo playing next to each other, I'm not messing with that.
No,
and I think Tippmann looks pretty damn good, and you want to find a way to keep him here as long as possible. Again, I don't know the timeline exactly on paying him, but I would not be moving his position. And, Myers he was a very cheap flyer. That was a great free agent signing. I think you could do both. I think you could keep him around and draft someone. You have so many picks and so much money. Bring him back and draft someone, and let's have a lot of depth at offensive line. You don't have to have Xavier Newman as a backup or some of the other guys they have knocking around. Remember how much we talked about Chugs in the offseason, by the way? I've had to say his name once, which is nice.
About him.
Which is nice. So I would not fix it if it's not broken. I'd be keeping Tippmann at guard. I would keep Myers at center. The discussion in my mind then is like an AVT Simpson thing. And then, you tell me, like, you got to, what can they do on day 3 or late day 2 at center on the interior offensive line?
First, I'll get a little crazy, and then I'll answer the question about the college centers. And I've always had this like wonder of what if AVT played center, because
just hit the full Tetris, all 5 positions.
It would be, I know. And people are just probably screaming into their AirPods right now, because he is, number one, he's one of the most elite athletes on the offensive line in the NFL. He really is. He's one of the best athletes in the interior line of in the NFL. So the movement skills are there. The anchor strength is there. And he's one of the smartest guys on the, in that room. Now, obviously, I don't think that's going to happen. I just want to make that clear. But it's always been like a little bit of, I don't think Tippmann's ever moving back to center unless it's an emergency. I think they love him at guard. They're thrilled with how this move worked. And that goes to number 3, which is your point, which I think is the most likely and logical plan, is retain Myers, who is a mediocre center. He's kind of a fringe middle of the pack-ish center, maybe even a little less, like maybe below average, but just fine. They have really good players around him.
Yep.
The top center in this draft was Connor Lew from Auburn. He was a top 40 pick. He tore his ACL this year. Brutal. Probably goes back to school now with the torn ACL. I mean, not a Linderbaum level player, but a damn good center prospect. Really good. The guy I really like, and I'll admit, out of all the positions in the draft, center is probably the one I have the least depth in, because when Trevor and I did summer scouting this year, we did not do a full episode on centers due to time constraints. Logan Jones from Iowa is a guy I've really liked. That would be that 4th round kind of center. And that goes to your plan, Joe, where you bring back Myers. You have a young center. It's so hard to start at center as a rookie. It's not a good idea. You have a young center developing, and then you kind of have this succession plan in place right there. So, and by the way, the whole AVT combo, AVT was not a right guard originally. So there's not this thought of like, well, if you don't move Tippmann back to center, you're saying goodbye to AVT. AVT played left guard in college and then left tackle and then left guard with the Jets. and then he went all around the world on the offensive line. So the Jets' decision with AV is probably between AVT and Simpson and who they want to be their left guard. And that kind of goes back to my galaxy brain theme of like, hey, could AVT play center? But
honestly, they have so much money, they could pay him. They won't, but they could pay them both because they literally are going to have so much money, they're not going to be able to spend it.
And realistically, they should, because it would be a shame.
So I can't watch AVT like start for the Eagles, no. Like win a Super Bowl in a year and a half. Yeah, it's going to drive me crazy.
There's also like the line in the sand. When I say like just sign everybody, if Simpson has this above market deal out there that like, thank you for being a great Jet, John Simpson. We're going to not pay you for what you've done. We're looking for what guys are going to do. If you have this, $20 million a year deal out, like go take it and retain AVT and play AVT at left guard. And if he gets hurt, you better have an injury insurance through the draft. But it's all going to come down to what everybody wants. It's easy for me, and I'm guilty of this. Sit here, resign this guy. Like the beauty of needing two of the three back of AVT, Simpson, and Myers is that I don't think it's going to be overly expensive, whatever route you kind of go.
Yeah, they have options, which is nice. And it's nice to have a lot of offensive line talent. All right. Have to answer this. Got to be fair. Big Pedro. Is it my imagination, or does Clemens look kind of decent as a pass rusher in recent weeks? The main thing I prefer is that if he's a third or fourth guy, it's nowhere near as bad. Also, free agency aside, if we go quarterback, wide receiver in the first round, would it make sense to get an edge rusher at the top of the second with Barron stinking so much and us needing more depth after Will and JJ? So, we actually got a question about McGregor too, because he got like a great PFF grade, although he played like in a very small sample size. Please don't overbuy your Braden McGregor stocks, although he's better than Barron at this point.
And he's hurt.
Yes, and I'll look. Clemens has definitely been a bit better since the Denver game. He still has a few snaps every game where I'm like, oh my God, like I just cannot believe I watched someone do that on a football field. We've been saying this for a long time. Like if Clemens is playing 8 to 12 snaps a game, he's fine. Now the Jets still play him a bit more than that, and they still get exposed, and good teams go after him. And I promise you will see the Patriots and Ravens attack Michael Clemens relentlessly in a way that Dylan Gabriel and Joe Flacco were unable to. Lamar Jackson and Drake May will be able to, and you'll be like, oh man, that's right, this guy stinks. So he does stink, and I do think like he's playable right now based on the roster situation because he's the third best guy because Barron's awful, and he's still probably better than McGregor, and he brings more size. Now, you let him walk in free agency, right? Maybe Saleh or Ulbrich sign him, and absolutely you go back to the well and draft another edge rusher. You need a third guy who could be more dynamic. I think you have to be honest with yourself internally and probably be like, Barron's not going to be that guy. That's a miss. That happens. Right. It's day 3. Right. Let's go get someone who could be a little more dynamic. You never know if JJ could get banged up again. Will McDonald will miss a game at some point. That happens. So for me, yeah, I mean, we were talking about it on the pod. One of the positions I mentioned in the second round was edge rusher. I think they got to be looking at that second level of the defense, edge rusher, linebacker, for additions overall. But what are your thoughts on Big Mike and the rest of the Jets edge rusher group?
Yeah, I mean, Clemens played 43 of their 73 defensive snaps.
My God.
That's pretty normal for him. He plays a lot. Yeah. Now, the thing I have to give them credit for, and part of it is also Cleveland was in a certain kind of script.
Yes.
He played only 13 run defense snaps versus 30 pass rush snaps. And with Clemens, it's kind of fascinating, right? He has zero skill as a pass rusher, like skill. He just kind of gets off the ball and
chops his arms.
Yeah, like he drives his body into the pocket. But he's more effective at that than defending the run because he doesn't keep his head up and he constantly loses contain to the point where if you run any quarterback design run his way or a reverse or any jet motion, like he can't defend it. He cannot defend it. So his speed to power, which is average, is an asset as a situational pass rusher. And I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Like you said, Joe, like he probably should be playing 20 of those 73 snaps and 14 of them are pass rush snaps where you're just trying to close the pocket. He has been better. It's probably aligned with that his role has been more pass rush related, and the Bengals and Browns lines are horrific, like dreadful, but you don't take away from a guy for that. He's been slightly better, but it just shows you this is why I think they are going to be infatuated, and some Jets fans are not going to want to hear this. If there's not a quarterback they like in this draft, the guys all go back to school and say only one of Simpson or Mendoza declares and they're going number one and the Jets can't get him, which happened to teams with Cam Ward last year. The Jets are going to be infatuated with Arbel Reese from Ohio State.